Okay, so I think we can start now. Welcome everybody to the 4th IAHR Coffee Chat. We're hosting this actually on a very special day. It's the International Women's Day. It's March 8th. And I'm very excited about the topic today because we're going to discuss the range of career paths. So we have a great selection of panelists from industry and also the academia. The panelists today are two engineers from industry. So we have Tanja who works at the Verbund, so that's an Austria hydropower company. And then we have Maria Pedro Monzones, who works at Global Omnium in Spain. And in contrast to that, we also have two panelists from academia. We have Professor Blair from the University of Texas, and then Professor Joana at IHE Delft. And my name is Isabella Schalko, and I'm gonna moderate today's coffee chat. As mentioned before, it's the 4th coffee chat, and the coffee chat has been initiated in 2020 together with the IHR Task Force on Strengthening Diversity and Gender Equity. So the idea of the coffee chats are to actually bring together established engineers and researchers with young professionals. And while the coffee chat is open for everybody, it does have a special focus on women in engineering and especially in hydraulic research. So this is the agenda for today. After short welcoming remarks, I'm going to give the I'm going to introduce the panelists, or the panelists are actually going to introduce themselves. They've prepared some very nice slides, and then we will head into the discussion. It will be a mix of a moderated and open discussion. We have asked you during the registration to send some questions, which have been very interesting, and I tried to summarize them a bit, and then we will start with that. And please feel free to type in any additional questions using the Q&A box. And then I can also make sure to answer them during this 1 hour. And then we will end it with just some brief closing remarks. So as a start, I'd like to ask Tanja to introduce herself.
Okay, thanks very much. Yes, on this slide, you see my personal and professional career timeline. I started as a young woman or girl at the technical college in Vienna, the Camilla Sitte, and there I was 5 years. And after that, I started with at the University of Natural Resources and Applied Life Science also in Vienna for my master studies in water environmental engineering. And after that, I changed with my family to Switzerland, and worked as a research engineer there on the laboratory for hydraulics, hydrology, and glaciology in Zurich, as I think Isabella is already working there. Yeah. So after 8 years, I decided to change sides and switch to the industry part, and started there my career as a project manager in the engineering consulting part. And for more than 20 years, this was my, let's say, my love, and I like to work and planned and decided as my work as a consultant, from very small projects to large projects, national and international. So I had the opportunity to visit a lot of countries all over the world, and have got the opportunity to develop hydropower plants from Australia to South America, Africa, Central Asia, and that was quite interesting. And about 10 years, 15 years ago, I decided to go more into the leading position, and there I started as a group leader, and step by step I was asked by different companies to take over the responsibility for hydropower departments, and at least I'm now since 6 months in the position of leading one of the biggest hydropower pool plant in Verbund company, placed in the, let's say, in the heart of the Austrian Alps in Kabrunn, in Salzach. And this hydropower pool plant is contains about 9 big hydropower plants, different types. And currently we have one big pump storage plant to be built, and which will be finalized in 4 years, I think. Then we have the impounding and takeover. Yeah, and I'm private, I'm married, I have 2 children, a boy and a girl. Beside that, I have many interests in sporty interests, but also culinary. So that's the reason why my family, so my husband and my son, decided opening a restaurant 2 years ago. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you very much. That's so interesting. Very impressive, your CV so far. So next up would be Maria. Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here. So I am Maria, and I am a civil engineer, and I also hold a PhD in hydraulic and environmental engineering. For many years, I worked as an expert in hydrological planning in different river basin organizations. And among the tasks that I did, I was responsible for developing water resources simulation models, water balances, and defining operating rules. During that period, it was the moment in which more publications I draft. And right now, I am currently responsible for the research and development in the drinking water area of the Global Omnium Group, where I manage the project portfolio from the moment the idea arises until it becomes a project. And I am also the mother of a baby. I have a daughter. And I like to spend the most of my time with her and with the rest of my family.
Sorry, I had difficulties. I have to go back. Thank you so much. Blair, do you want to go next?
Sure. Good morning, good afternoon. Happy to see you all today. So yeah, I'm Blair Johnson. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Texas at Austin. So yeah, a brief overview of my CV. I'm from Baltimore in Maryland. It's close to Washington, D.C. on the East Coast. I went to Johns Hopkins, where originally I was planning on becoming a structural engineer, but also kept up a music minor in piano. And you can't see because of the virtual background, but there's a piano right behind me. So it's when I'm working for a little bit, I can just spin around and play a little bit and then get back to work in our Zoom days. But yeah, during college, I had the opportunity to do research and got to TA. And so I was set. I wanted to be a professor pretty quickly. And so went directly to grad school, did my master's and PhD at Cornell. During that time, I also spent some time in Spain at a couple different visiting researcher appointments. And then moved to Arizona State for my postdoc. And I'll say that's because I met my husband in graduate school. We were both PhD students, but in different departments. And as we were graduating, he got a faculty job first. And his university agreed to hire me as a postdoc. So I moved to Arizona with him. But once I was there, I realized it wasn't quite going to work out long term. And so I applied for faculty positions, and here I am at UT Austin now. He was also able to come with me as a spousal hire. So we have resettled here. No kids, just 2 dogs who keep us busy enough. I don't know how people with actual children manage to stay alive and to keep the kids alive. So hats off to you. Research-wise, I am in environmental fluid mechanics. So I have an experimental research lab, do a lot with turbulence, mixing, sediment transport, looking at, ice melting, kind of getting into these really fundamental problems that we design experimental facilities to do, and also do a little bit of applied hydraulics work. Like we have a project to design median barriers for flood zone. So, it's like we put holes in median barriers as a group that crash tests them to make sure they're still worthy for highways, but we're trying to work hydraulics into things that don't typically incorporate hydraulics. So I think that's me.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the dual career aspect is challenging when you're in academia. So yeah, and the last panelist is Joana Popescu.
Yes, thank you. Well, I started, I graduated a BSc and MSc in civil engineering back home in Romania, and I started to work for 2 years on a hydropower site. And then I decided that I will do a PhD because I was really amazed by the research and what can be done in research. And I thought that I need more mathematics for doing a PhD, and this is when I decided to do mathematics, and I graduated also a faculty of mathematics. After finalizing my PhD, I was lucky to get a postdoc position with Institute for Research in Construction in Canada. And then in 2001, I joined this position, this institute where I am now, which is an international institution for hydraulic and environmental research that only looks at postgraduate and master students. I started as a senior lecturer, and then by now I am an associate professor in hydroinformatics. I have a PhD promotion rights in my hometown, because in Romania the system is a little bit different than here. You really have to have a PhD promotion rights based on an exam, while in the Netherlands it's not in the same way. And since 1 year, we have a new master program, and I'm the coordinator of the profile of digital innovation and hydroinformatics for the new Master of Science. And my main area of work, if you can please go to the next slide. My main research focus is on computational methods in aspects of flood modeling and vulnerability, in mainly physically based models, all in support for decision in water and environment. I have been involved in many projects, mainly EU projects from FP7 to Horizon 2020, all related to floods and rivers in many countries, and mainly physically based model. And lately, all the projects were having also the main component of involving citizen science, citizens in measurements and incorporating their research, their measurements in research and in modeling. If we can go to the next, please. Well, about myself, like any other in academia, I have publications, I have PhDs, and I am very much for open data and for fair principles, and this is why I'm also involved in the World Data System for global sciences. And what I wanted to show you, it's actually very important for the next slide, why we are here. So can we? And why today is important. Maybe before I start telling you all this, I should tell you that I'm a married, and I have a daughter who is grown up, so she's an architect nowadays, and this is why I think that it is important to look at women. But if you go, there is a very interesting site of UN that it's called My World 2030, where everyone is allowed to vote what is important from the Sustainable Development Goals for themselves. And there are many, and all are important, the Sustainable Development Goals. But what you see from the votes that I tested a few days back, is that the most important is good health and well-being, which we all understand, and then decent work and economic growth. But the next ones that are coming almost in equal votes is quality of education and gender equality. So it's not only us today that we are looking at gender diversity and equality, the whole world, and whoever votes from all over the world thinks that gender equality and good quality education is very important, apart from the other two of having good work and education. So this is why I think that today it's important. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Joana. That was a great presentation. I can just support your last statement that today is important, and I think IAHR only benefits from a more diverse community. So we're gonna now head actually to the moderated and open discussion. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And I'd like to kick off the discussion with the first question about how did you actually find your current job position? I feel like that's gonna open up some more questions. Blair, do you maybe wanna start with that?
Sure. So thank you. So yeah, how did I find my current job? So when I was applying for jobs, as I said, I'm in experimental fluid mechanics. And so I knew once I built my lab, I only wanted to do it once and not have to do it again in 5 years and in 10 years and in 20 years. So I was very selective with where I was applying. So I think I only applied to about 12 different universities for jobs, which is hard because you don't have a lot of chances to fail. And searches are really selective and you never really know who they're going to pick. So there was a lot of luck. I'm very thankful to be in my position, but I only picked places that I would be willing to really live kind of, culturally, location-wise, full-time. To find jobs for academia, there are several different websites that consolidate listings. So there's like Academic Keys through different conference organizations, like AGU sends a career update about once a month or so, and they always have listings at the bottom. There's academic jobs. There's a few different websites that consolidate listings. So I would just search them every weekend, read through. And then I also just thought, what are some universities that are just good schools across, and I was limiting at that time to the US. So I just looked up good universities to see if they had a faculty opening, because not all of them were listed elsewhere. And I will say I also, didn't only apply to the jobs that exactly fit my description. So my training is mostly in civil engineering. My postdoc was in mechanical. I applied to jobs in mechanical, aerospace, civil, geosciences. I don't think I applied to any in math, but I looked at them. The job I currently have was looking for a hydrologist, and don't tell my chair, but I'm not a hydrologist. But in the ad, it said experimental, it said fluids, it said it in there kind of interspersed. And so I thought, I'm just going to apply and just kind of see what happens. And I got there, kind of identified like this is also a gap in your department, and got them excited about me. And so here we are. But I would say, yeah, kind of, it was a very, what's the word I was saying? Not catered. It was a very precarious little search there. Whereas, in some careers, for numerical folks, it might be easier to move around a few times. But for me, I was just like, no, this is going to be my permanent move. If I don't get it, I would have, continued my postdoc or continued as a lecturer at Cornell, just teaching classes. But yeah, hopefully that helps.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Maybe just a small follow-up question. When talking about applications in the US, is there like a certain window where you have to apply? That may be also interesting.
Yeah, so typically in the fall is when there are openings, and so it's hard because you're finishing, you might not finish your dissertation until May or August typically, and so you kind of have to apply for jobs either early or right when you're finishing, and neither of those times are convenient, and they both have a lot of uncertainty and stress. But I would say even if you apply early and you do get something, it is very common to defer. And so you can say, I'm not going to start for 6 months or even a year or sometimes 2 years, that people stretch out their start date so that they can really, finish their PhD or finish their postdoc, whatever it is that they're working on. But yeah, most deadlines I would say are kind of, early December, maybe into January, but it's kind of November, December range in the US.
Okay, thank you so much. Joana, do you maybe follow up on that? So we cover the academia side first.
Sure. Well, I always wanted to combine what I have done in mathematics and mainly all the methods to do decision support systems, but still remain in hydraulics area and in civil engineering, because that was my main area. So while I was doing my postdoc with National Research Council, I started to search for something that combines mathematics and hydraulics. And then hydroinformatics was most normal keyword to search for work. And that there are not many places where hydroinformatics, in Europe it's used as hydroinformatics, in US it's called cyber infrastructure, but somehow I was focused on hydroinformatics, and yeah, I knew about IHE Delft. I was here also before, so this position appeared, and this is how I ended up here. And I also didn't want to change too much. So my daughter was small at the time, so I wanted to have a bit of stability and not to change positions. And this is how I ended up here. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think now maybe to get another perspective from the industry side, Maria, do you maybe want to start giving us more insights how you found your position?
Yes, of course. So in my case, it has taken me a long time to find the job I am in now. When I finished my career, I was lucky to start working even before I finished my studies, due to the strong demand for engineers that Spain has at that moment. So I started in a public company building water resource models for the river basin authorities. And I stayed there for several years until the administration started to reduce budgets because of the economic crisis. And then it was the moment to come back to the university and start my PhD. So at that time in Spain, it was really difficult to find a job, and the jobs that were available, they were abroad. So my decision was staying at home, and that was an episode of brain drain that we still have here in Spain. So I did my PhD, and when I finished my thesis, I felt a mixture of satisfaction because of having finished my thesis on this period, but also it was a period of an uncertainty because the situation in Spain was almost the same. So I worked for a while as a freelance, and I returned to the public company where I had worked years before. And while I was there, I applied for a selection process at Global Omnium, and now I am here. And this has been a difficult way or path, but now I am happy for being here.
Thank you very much. Tanya, do you maybe want to follow up on your position that you recently?
Yeah. So in my case, it's a little bit different, completely different, I would say. So for me, to find the first job was was very difficult. Yes, so after the finishing my studies, it took me about, let's say, 2 to 3 or 4 months to find a job. Yeah, but after that, it was for me very easy to find all my other jobs. Yeah? So because I used my connections, which I have, yeah, let's say, started with networking was very difficult, but also very easy during my time in Zurich. So I used all these connections to find all my other jobs. Yeah, so I never had got the problem to find a job in an engineering consulting company. At least I was always contacted by external consultant or by HR members from these companies, and they asked me, do you want to be the first, and do you want to start, and could you think about if this would be interesting for you to take over the group, the hydropower department, and so on. And at least it was the same with my current job position here. I was contacted and first I didn't want to change my job because I was very happy. And but at least I thought maybe it's time to get or to start something new, to change sides from the planning and designing side to the operation and maintenance side. And at the end, I'm very happy that I've done this. Yeah? So at least I'm here, and it's now, I think, the third employee where I got the chance, being the first woman, to head or to take over a special position in this company.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Maybe a follow-up question to both Maria and Tanya, since you're in industry now and you were previously in academia. What actually motivated you to make the transition, and what would you say are like the biggest differences? I don't know, Tanya, if you want to continue.
So my decision was because I had to think if I want to finish with a PhD, but I didn't get the chance. So that was very difficult. I already have started with a PhD, but didn't get the chance to finish it, yeah, to finalize it. So that was for me, and I tried to find another university where I could follow up and finish it, but there, at that moment, there was no one who was who gave me a chance to do this. So I decided to stop my research and to start something new. Yeah. So that was, so it was not my decision. It was a decision by third parties. Let's say it in that way. And the difference is, the environmental is completely different, yes, but I never, let's say, I always try to stay in connection with my colleagues in the research part, and I always got employees who were very interested to keep the close connection to the research part. So that was always important for me, not only working and stay in industry, or always stay in contact with researchers. So that was very important for me.
Thank you. Maria, do you want to follow up? How was your experience on the transition?
Yes, in my case, from the beginning, I was committed to working on water-related issues, either in private enterprise or in the administration or university. I had those questions clear. And when I finished my research, the problem was that I had to go abroad. I had the opportunity to go to Dresden, also to the south of France, but I decided to stay here. I didn't want. I didn't know what I was going to find, or if I was going to finally find something. But I stayed positive, and the transition from university to the industry was my decided option. So I have to recognize that thanks to having this PhD, I was able to start in the company I am now. And the differences or the relation with the university here in the industry, it is also possible to continue the researching, I mean. But this is a different kind of research. For example, in the company, the priority is not to publish articles, but these publications allow us to disseminate and publicize our progress. So maybe it could be translated in more business opportunities. And it is a way also to maintain contact with my colleagues at university, and look for new projects, look for new ideas. So it's in my point of view is really interesting and necessary to continue with this connection with the academia of the university.
Okay, so that connection has been both important for you and Tanya. I think that's very interesting. There has been a question stated directly to Maria and Tanya. The question is, has your decision also been affected by, there's always this, or at university, there's commonly this maximum time that you can stay at a university or being funded. And was this also part of your decision to then transfer to industry?
Yeah, I start. Yes, when I began my studies or my thesis, my PhD, I knew that I will have funds only for 3 years, and I moved from a contract to another until I finished those 3 years. And the head of the department told me and the rest of the colleagues that we were doing the research in that moment, that we could stay there while we were doing our PhD, but in the moment that we finish our PhD, we need to look for a different job or to apply for a position abroad, because there was not the opportunity to continue staying in the university. So this was one of the reasons why I decided to wait and look for a position in a private company.
And Tanya, was there a time restriction or?
No.
Okay.
Short answer, no. No, this has never affected my decision. No.
Okay. Well,
actually,
I think
jump in to say, I'm sorry,
yeah.
Can I jump in and say the opposite? So for me, I was also, Maria, you reminded me, I was in grad school also during the recession. And so there were no jobs available. And so I had the lucky position that my advisor was able to extend my funding and keep me in grad school longer and keep me funded. I mean, at a low grad student salary, of course. But basically, we were kind of waiting until there were jobs available again. And so I was able to prolong my PhD until the market started to recover a little bit. But I know it's really different in different countries and with different advisors. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a common problem in academia that your contracts are only temporary for the majority of us. Maybe let's switch to the academia part again. There has been a question asking about how important teaching activity is, and how do you, when you're as a group leader or PI professor, how do you actually get time to do your own research, or how did that kind of shift from being a postdoc? I know, Blair, if you want to continue.
Sure. I love teaching. I think it's the most kind of like instantly rewarding part of the job, I will admit. And yeah, we are, it's like at this point, I'm an assistant professor. So we're evaluated, after 6 years to see whether we get tenure, whether we get to stay at the university. So it's like I'm on a 6-year-long job interview right now. So we're evaluated for teaching, but it's probably one of the lower tier things that we're evaluated for. I only teach 1 or 2 classes per semester, and less when you're starting out, more as you advance slightly. But we're definitely encouraged to keep prep time and stuff to a minimum. So I give good lectures, I do good office hours, but then kind of close the teaching part of my brain so that I can spend more of my time on research, because that's what we're evaluated on. In the US, in engineering, it's very common that we supervise master's and PhD research students. And so my students, they are who is in the lab, and it is my job to write proposals to keep them funded, because I have to win grants in order for them to stay. So I am personally not in the lab very often, except to kind of, bless their experiments and say, you're doing great, keep going, or hey, fix this and send me a picture later, just, before you proceed, so I know you're doing all right. So yeah, I am not analyzing my own data anymore. I am not collecting the data. I'm not even adjusting the cameras. I am, my job is as a writer now, to write proposals and to edit papers and to keep papers moving, to build collaborations, be in meetings. So my job as a professor has changed drastically from my job as a student. But I love it, because it means I kind of get to bounce in and out of the research, and I'm not the one debugging the codes anymore, which is nice. I just kind of get to troubleshoot and problem solve, and be the voice of reason when things aren't going so well, or when they are going well, to say congratulations, now what do we do with this next? So it is a different kind of managerial role, but I still feel like I'm absorbing a lot of science and still learning a lot as I get to move forward in this job.
Thank you. Joana, do you want to give us your insights?
Yeah, well, there is not a lot of difference as opposed with what Blair is doing, because we also, I also think that teaching is important, but one would not be able to do teaching if there are no results in research, and if research is not done continuously. The system is as such that we also have to attract funding for research, not for students. So we have to attract funding for different research ideas, and we have different donors. So we go with collaboration for EU projects. Within these research projects, we can involve MSc students and PhD students, and they do a lot of work as very similar to what Blair was mentioning. We also have to do ourselves, but mainly we are overseeing and looking what students are doing with the data, but we need to be involved ourselves a little bit more than just looking at what they are doing. Well, I think that's not a big difference in how we do research, and we really have to find the balance. We cannot do just research or just teaching.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it sounds great to have these different tasks that you have to tackle. Maybe a follow-up question. There has been a person asking that he or she is currently finishing the PhD program and thinking about whether to continue to do a postdoc. What would be your advice? Do you think that having a postdoc puts someone on the track to stay in academia, and then you would have less chances to transition to industry? Or what are your experiences maybe with your postdocs or PhD students that you supervised, or your own?
Well, I think that doing a postdoc is very important, and especially going away from your where you have done your PhD to see something else, to see in a different research environment, a postdoc, to experience in a different university or research institution, it's very important. And yes, I don't think so that it will hamper the decision on whether to stay in academia or to go in the industry. On the contrary, it will help shaping the view what is important and how to do it. Well, my advice would be that if after PhD, try to get a postdoc position in a research institution, not in another university, because that is when you would see a bit more something different from a university. But it's just my own reflection.
Thank you. Blair, do you have something to add on that?
Yeah, I would agree. I know it's a bit of a luxury to be able to, you know, move your life for 2 years and move your life for 3 years. I know that that's not in everybody's, you know, ability to do. But I think, I mean, if you do have the chance, well, and now we're able to work remotely in so many ways that you might be able to have an experience with somebody else without having to go there. But I think, yeah, the more opportunities you have to make new connections, you know, take a break from one research. And, you know, I did my postdoc with explosive shock tubes. It had nothing to do with environmental fluid mechanics, but it gave me a chance just to kind of build my confidence and, you know, learn different advising styles. You know, I had different advisors at each institution. That has shaped the way I am now an advisor to my own students, puts you in contact with more funding sources. Yeah, whether you're at a university or can be at a national lab or a research institution, these are all like really good long-term investments of broadening your network and broadening your, you know, your relevance and your connections, which do play a big role, I think, in future funding opportunities and success. You know, funding's difficult and you might not be able to continue in one path for your whole career. So this gives you more opportunities to learn before you're the responsible person in charge of the PhD and the master's students. And I agree. I think, yeah, I don't think in the US, I don't think anything really hinders you from going into industry at any point. But you also don't need the postdoc for an academic position. So, you know, apply, see what you get, and make your best choice.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe let's have another question that kind of tackles like the comparison about industry and academia. There has been one. Can you like give some insights what you think? What are the main factors for a person to kind of decide which career path he or she would be a better fit? I mean, I guess it's hard to answer because the jobs itself are very can be different even in academia and industry. But what would you say? What are the main factors to say, oh, I would better fit in industry or academia? Maria, do you maybe want to?
Well, it's really difficult to answer this question, but in my opinion, whichever option that you choose, you must enjoy it, and what really matters is that you need to be happy with your works. And after all, if finally you recognize or you realize that you were wrong, you'll always have the possibility to change. So we must see it as an opportunity. So you can change your position, or you can try to change it, and with time you will do it. So it's question of trying and seeing if you enjoy it or not, and make the decision. I think.
I don't know, Tanya, do you have something to add for what's important, since you also have the experience of both?
Yeah, I completely agree to Maria. I only want to add that's very important as well to know your strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, because this is you should know that, because then you can enjoy the work you do. And it's also very important because that's the only way you can perform well if you love your job and your work. Yes, because sometimes it's not, you will get to a point that you need something to do what you don't like. Yes, and then if you enjoy your work, then it's able to fulfill your work as well if you don't like the topic or the target you're working on. So yeah, that's what I can say from my experience: strengths, weaknesses, and enjoy what you want to do.
Okay, thank you. Maybe a follow-up question that has been asked in the Q&A for Maria and Tanya. There's a question stating, how important are scientific papers when applying for a job in industry?
Well, imagine that I receive a curriculum or a CV, and I see that. I will see that that person is capable of resume a project, of resume some results, and to affront a difficult situation, because writing a paper is not easy. So it demonstrates more than maybe students think. It demonstrates that you are capable of express these results, and maybe if you have several publications, or even if you have only one paper, the person that is interviewing you can see that you are going to be able to write a report and you can defend your results. So it is really, in my opinion, it is a good point that you are going to have in an interview.
Tanya, do you want to add something to that?
Only one. It's a nice to have if you see it in a CV, yes, but it's not a must. Yes, it only shows that you can stay focused and you can you know how to write reports. Yeah, for that's very important, but nothing more. Yeah, so it's not a must.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. I think now we can maybe transition to focusing more on what it's like when you're a woman in industry or academia. And there have been several questions more on the topic, if you've ever experienced disrespect, and if you how did you react to it, and what advice in general would you give more early career women in that being in that situation? I don't know, Joana, do you maybe want to start?
Yes, I can. Well, yes, thank you. Maybe I'm not the best example here, because I cannot say that I have experienced disrespect. The fact that while I was working, I think that academia is quite cautious, but I'm sure that the industry is also cautious. It all depends on the people with whom you are working, and one might be unlucky, or maybe it also depends on the countries where you are working, on the culture itself. But I was lucky enough not to have to witness disrespectful. I was looking at the fact that this question appeared, and I was thinking a lot. I had several discussions with some students during talks on women and how women are treated. But for this particular thing, I think that it's also a matter of how yourself have as an attitude towards the ones that are around you. So if you are respectful, they will always be respectful, and how to have an attitude towards that. You have to think and to analyze, and in a respectful manner, maybe to draw attention to the person that it is disrespectful. Maybe I don't know. That is not aware that it is disrespectful, and in a nice way saying, look, this is not okay, because one might witness people who are not even aware that they are disrespectful for the fact that you are a woman and working. But as I say, academia, it's quite cautious, and they will not be disrespectful that you are a woman. But that's what I can say.
Mm-hmm. Blair, what has been your experience in academia?
I will say quite the opposite of what we just heard. So I'm glad to know that that side exists as well. Yeah, in my case, I as a I say as a faculty member, I receive much less disrespect. I will say at this level, it's much more equitable in the treatment. I will say the different, like at this age, at this point, it's things like, you know, some of the students think I'm a young woman, I'm nice, I'm cool, and so I'm going to be more lenient with deadlines. Whereas their senior male professors, like, oh, they're going to be strict. Like, no, we can please get the same level of respect, and you can honor my deadlines the same as theirs, or ask them for the same number of extensions as you're asking me for. So I do kind of call that out with the students, and they just realize like, oh shoot, yeah, I made assumptions that I shouldn't have. And then they kind of snap back and we move forward fine. So I am able to address it on the spot if it's an interaction with, you know, a student and myself where this is happening. And these are, I would say these are small things. However, you know, as a graduate student, by my peers, by faculty in my department, by faculty I interacted with at conferences, to me, it was very clear that I was not welcome in their space. There were many times that I wanted to leave, but I knew that I wouldn't be leaving because of my own inadequacies. I would have been leaving because of the treatment of others, and that didn't seem fair to me. And so I wanted to be able to push through and to stay and try to make a difference for the other women, you know, around me and the women younger than me who also deserved to be in that space. I wanted them to know that they were welcome there, just the same as I knew I was welcome there, even if my peers didn't. And so, you know, when it's peer on peer, I would often, you know, fight back and say something and let them know that they were inappropriate. But when it's coming from senior colleagues who are, you know, people who are going to be writing your recommendation letters and voting on your tenure case and all of these things, you don't have the power to say things back directly to them. You know, that's my opinion. And so that can be hard to kind of smile through it, and just knowing one day I will have this conversation with you when I have the security in my job to do so. But there are unfortunately many times when I still just kind of smile through it and find other ways to show my strength. You know, I feel like I've had to both earn a PhD for doing engineering and being smart, and also earn my PhD by fighting sexism and harassment and discrimination the whole way through. So there's many times I feel like I've had to work twice as hard to be where I am. But now that I'm, you know, becoming in a role of leadership, definitely want to try to help the path for others. But yeah, it's not a problem that's dying quite yet. So I think still a bit of work to do, but that's why we're doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving these insights and sharing that. I think that's always important, that, or for me at least, to know that maybe you're not the only one and it's not you, it's actually them that are the problem. And it's important to create an environment where everybody feels welcome. So I'm looking forward to also that IAHR is continuing to improve on that, which I think is really great. Okay, so maybe Maria and Tanya, do you want to share some insights on that, how it's in industry?
In my case, I have never experienced some kind of disrespectful situation. But when I, in my first job, I noticed that my colleagues' boys, they were better paid than were the girls. And I found that the reason was that when doing the interviews, they demanded a higher salary, and the girls, as me, we accepted what we were initially offered. So when I realized, I thought, okay, I'm going to take note, and whenever I have the opportunity, I demand what I think that I deserve. And this is not a disrespectful situation, but I think that is something that women should do.
Yes, I agree with the more transparent salaries. That'd be helpful to also improve. Thank you. Tanya, do you want to close?
Yeah, I had some experience with disrespect. Yeah, it's a long time ago, but I don't want to miss them because they taught me a lot about myself, how to react, and also to know how to react if I get in the same situation again. But my advice would be stay calm, ask for support from a senior colleague or manager, depends to whom you have a good relationship. Yeah, and don't overreact and stay calm. Yeah, it's very difficult to deal with such situation, and yeah, but it depends on the people who shows this disrespect to you. So
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good advice and important to stay calm, especially in a professional environment. Okay, so there's one open question left at the Q&A that I'd also like to have answered. Person's asking if I'm giving a chance between an academic position at university or an industrial applied research institution, for instance, Deltares in the Netherlands, which option would advance my academic career? So do you think for an academia, would it better to be at a university or change to a research institution? I don't know, maybe Joana, you're so close to those research institutions.
Yeah, it's every country, I think it's different. So in the Netherlands, one has the opportunity to work, for example, 4 days in academia and 1 day at a research institution, or 3+2. And definitely at the beginning of an academic career, that would help, because it will help enhance the research, and one would learn. So yes, then if one wants to go on an academic path, in the Netherlands, you can choose to still keep some research at Deltares, for example. I don't know how it is in another country, but if there is such opportunity, I think it would be good to have these mixed opportunities. It will also help deciding what is better, what one would enjoy best, academia or industry.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for answering that question. We actually have only 1 minute left, so I think there's no time to ask additional questions, but I'd like to take the time to thank the 4 panelists for sharing your experience and giving such great advice on that, I think, very important topic, how to get some more insights on what are the differences between academia and industry. So I think we can now close the coffee chat, and I hope you're gonna join, maybe some of you, IAHR, the conference in Canada this summer. It would be great to then see you all in person. Yeah, and happy International Women's Day, everyone, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you all for the interesting questions, and Isabella for organizing this. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you also.
Are we allowed to disappear too? I have a meeting, but
yes,
really
yes.
great to meet you. And it's so interesting so much, Tanja. I think US versus Europe, I think there's so many big differences. So thank you for inviting me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. Thank you.
Thanks, Isabella. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you so much, Tanya. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Maria.